Hello, good morning. It is me, Simon Lewis, on the 2nd of June, and I'm out walking my dog in my high vis and talking about education. I hope you had a lovely long bank holiday weekend like I did. I'm back. The weather seems to be reasonably nice again after a very rainy few days. But when I say I want to talk about education, I think that's the theme of today's walk and talk. It's about talking about education, and it's something that I talk about quite a bit because one of the things that we don't do enough in education is talk about difficult things. And I had the opportunity, I was very happy and very proud to have the opportunity. I finally got an opinion piece, an op-ed in the Irish Times, where I talked about communion in primary schools, and obviously my topic that I'm most passionate about, the need to separate religious instruction from the education system. And it got me obviously the opinion piece got me an interview on RT Radio 1 where I talked to David McCulloch, and it also got me an interview with Ray Darcy on his new podcast, and I really enjoyed speaking on those podcasts. It also obviously then got shared on social media, where I got I suppose when this subject comes up, you get the usual sort of reaction, which is people saying you should just build your own school. This is a Catholic country, and so on and so forth. The usual tropes, which I find really, really interesting. People don't want to talk about these things. What they want to do is defend the status quo, or not to investigate or not to think about it. Other responses around it's just cultural, and without thinking about the impact it has on others. So what I feel we really need to do is talk about these things, talk about the impact of these things. But even when we do talk, I get very excited, because sometimes in the midst of your anti-Catholic, or go back to your own country despite it being my own country, and just build your own schools, despite the fact I did effectively do that back in the day. Sometimes people will write directly to me, and in the last couple of weeks 3 people did, and they have said things like my faith is very important to me, even though I don't go to church or I don't go to mass. I think it's this is an important aspect of my life, and I feel I should have it. And I've written back to people like that to say, well, look, I'm happy to talk to you about it. I just will give you my perspective if you like, and they'll agree. And then I will tell them my story, and I will tell them about other children's stories and where they can find out more information. And then it's like it's the equivalent of the phone hanging up, deathly silence. And it's really frustrating, because while I believe I am right, I am very open to being convinced that I'm not right. I get that that making one's communion is a big deal in most people's families, even if they don't believe in God or in anything to do with it. And I don't have a problem with that. I never have a problem with people doing their own thing. I don't care what you do in your own time. My problem is the impact it has on others. And it's something that we really need to talk about. And is there better solutions? My solution is to get rid of the whole patronage system and take religious instruction out of schools and replace it with an ethical education program, a religious literacy program, and children go to their nearest school. That's my solution. I don't believe that you should have loads more choice of schools. But one needs to argue these cases. If you don't agree with them, I mean, of course you can completely ignore me, which is what most people do. But if we're ever going to get out of this quandary where we have thousands and thousands and a growing number of families essentially being sidelined in their own classrooms, being visitors at their own class parties, this is this is going to be a problem that isn't going away. It comes up every year. In fact, if you look at these things, it effectively hijacks almost most of our education stories. We don't tend to focus on education when we talk about the education system. We talk about the external factors. We don't talk about literacy and numeracy and pedagogy. What we talk about is the religion that rules over the schools, and it's something that we really need to think about. Why is it the story that dominates the discussions when we talk about primary education? Number one, it's emotive. I get that. It's clickbaity because it gets to identity and so on. But it's not healthy. It's not healthy for our education system. It discriminates. It leaves people out. It makes people upset, and we need to do something about it. And the only way to do something about it is to talk about it, because whether we like it or not, it isn't something that's going away. We are a diverse country of people of varying beliefs and then of various belief systems, anything from people who don't believe in a God to people who do believe in a God devoutly, and in both cases that the system doesn't satisfy either of those. We have people of different beliefs, religions, and again they can't sometimes they can't say anything because they have to not only deal with the fact that they're left out of the classroom, that if they complain, they're told, well, if I went to your country, I wouldn't be asking for a Muslim, for a Catholic system in a Muslim country, and so on. They deal with that xenophobia and racism and all that sort of stuff, and it's mainly against Islam. So then we need to think about it. We need to talk about the idea of what do we mean when we need more choice? What does that actually look like? I always find that frustrating. I mean, because every time I go and talk about this, people say, well, we just need more choice. What does that mean? It sounds like I'm pitching for my own convention, and in some ways I am. So let's talk. That's the only way through this. We need to talk, even if we disagree with each other. Disagreement is healthy, and we should talk about it more. That's it for today. For those 3 people who contacted me and didn't reply when I went to the trouble of explaining myself, it'd be nice if you did reply or acknowledge the fact that I replied to you. To be perfectly honest, this stuff does take time. I do it with good intentions. Look, bluntly, it's rude not to reply, isn't it? Anyway, have a great day. Bye.